Well, Ron, thank you for coming on Topless Government. Really appreciate it. I know we want to talk about, we're going to delve into this episode about, the quality and abilities of, candidates that are running for public office and how it's kind of transformed, our democracy into something that it shouldn't be. I mean, and I think this is a timely discussion because, we're almost to the midterm elections and it's kind of rough right now. And so I'm very happy that you came onto the show. I'm the host of Topless Government, and I live, breathe, eat, and sleep politics. And I've done 2 tours of duty in the U.S. Senate and 1 tour of duty in the House. And it's my privilege of having worked in state and local governments in corporate America and in several lobbying firms here in Washington, D.C. So my guest is Ron Hamm. He's a very good friend of mine, and he's actually taught me everything that I know about lobbying and being a good advocate for your clients. And so Ron is the president of Hamm Consulting Group. And so, Ron, if you want to, talk a little bit about the Hamm Consulting Group and what you do, we can start off right there.
Well, thanks, Crystal. First of all, I'm delighted to be with you here today, and you have been so gracious to say that I taught you everything you know. But you're an amazing lobbyist in your own right.
Thank
So
you.
it's been a privilege to work with you, but more than that, to be a really good friend over the years. And of course, in my area of work, I have advocated for local governments, public sector agencies, including higher education institutions, 4-year colleges, and community colleges. For most of my career, I actually began working in local government on the ground where people will tell you when there is a pothole or their trash needs to be picked up or they want to have some community development block grant funding through HUD to do neighborhood or community improvements and revitalization. So I've had the opportunity to be on the ground working in city and county government in Southern California. And then upon arriving in DC, I went into the lobbying field for local governments in Southern California, and then also worked with another firm where Crystal and I met. And I worked in about 10 different states, again, advocating for municipal governments, higher education, nonprofits, and several private sector firms. So I'm happy to be here. What we do for our clients at the Hamm Consulting Group is, of course, advocate, whether it be for federal funding, it may be for legislation, it could be for regulatory relief. The other thing, too, is to work to really raise our clients' profiles here in Washington and to create opportunities where there may not be opportunities. So we enjoy the challenge of doing that within the federal government. So grants are a big part of what we do, appropriations, authorizations, as well as following all of these tons and tons of billions of dollars that are out there and really making sure that the client is well positioned to take advantage of those opportunities if they are good fits. So that's a quick wrap on who I am. And Krista, I really look forward to having this discussion with you today.
Yeah, because I know you live in Virginia,
Mhm.
and I live in DC, and I've been seeing a lot of these ads for the 7th and 10th congressional districts in Virginia.
Mhm.
Abigail Spanberger, what's her name?
Spanberger.
Spanberger and Jennifer Wexton. I
Yes.
mean, and I think this is like the perfect example of what we want to talk about today is, the GOP candidates that are running against them individually, their leadership qualities, their qualifications, their ability to just work with others besides Republicans, and the extreme views that they have. I mean, it's just we are now at a point in our country that it doesn't matter about your qualifications as long as you go along with a certain base within your party. then, and you keep saying the same thing over and over again, and it makes it true, because that comes along with conspiracy theories. I mean, I was just like, your thoughts about those two races and, the impact that it's having on, the qualities and abilities of candidates running for public office.
Well, those are two very relevant races. As a matter of fact, Jennifer Wexton is currently my congressional representative, and I think she's done a very good job here. I will tell you, just watching some of the advertisements, and it goes both ways.
Hmm.
It's like I really wish that they would verify the information and also provide some perspective before just putting those ads. And I know people have done political ads forever, but as one that's worked in this business for quite some time and worked on campaigns, I worked on campaigns when I was in California. The thing we always wanted to focus on was having a good, competent, respectful person that you could trust who wanted to do the work. And I think in watching these two races, it's all about what you're not going to do,
Hmm.
when you get to Washington, or what you plan to do is really going to hurt someone else. And I think it's the sound bites, it's the attraction of, let's just throw folks out and we're going to get these people in and they are going to do X, Y, and Z and make this country great and all those things. But what I find out is some of the people that are running in these races, number one, they're not very honest. And number two, they really want to do the work
Right.
of legislating? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Are they really going to study the issues and look at policies that make a difference in
Hmm.
the quality of life of their candidates? I always tell my friends, I said, when you look at people, whether you vote Republican and Democrat, and I worked for a Republican when I was in California,
Right.
when you look at that, are they going to make your life better or your community better or improve things? If they can't tell you if there's an issue, crime, for instance,
Hmm.
if they can't give you a succinct answer in terms of what policy they would put forward to deal with the crime issue, rather than just to say, you have all this crime under the Democrats or the Republicans,
Hmm.
I really don't want to talk to or vote for someone like that. I want to hear someone say, if I am in office, these are the steps that I would take, or this is how I would work with other folks to bring about the change to make sure that people are safe. So my theory on that is you have to stop looking at parties so much. You need to really take a look at the candidates, but we are just so split these days. I was talking to a friend earlier, and he's like, Ron, is there any way that you can get rid of the Democratic and Republican Party? I said,
Hmm.
well, if I could do that, I would probably be beyond earthly, to be honest with you. I said, the bottom line is, I don't see that going away. And I said, I said, I don't think some of these folks coming into these parties have never really studied the history of these parties. They just, they will connect to a name in which I've seen the Republican philosophies. And I have to tell you, many of the folks that are running these days in that party don't represent those qualities and the attributes that I found and values that are part of being Republican. I could say the same thing for some Democrats. But the
Hmm.
bottom line out is that people look at who represents your interests. Are you voting because the sound bites, or you're unhappy about something and you think someone's going to come in, flip a switch, and change your life overnight? If they are selling you that, you probably want to run
Right.
away from them as well.
Yeah. I've just been struggling. I mean, even with
Mhm,
voting in DC,
mhm,
and I don't agree with a lot of the incumbents that are running for reelection and everything.
mhm.
But it would just be nice for the folks to just be honest and just, but they can't. I mean, and you're right. It's on both parties, to be perfectly honest.
Mhm,
It really, really is.
mhm.
And it's just the one thing that I do remember. Um, I think this really all started when the late Senator John McCain picked Sarah Palin as his running mate.
Someone who I work very closely with
Yep, I
and
know.
still admire
I
to
know.
this day.
I
You work
know.
with them too, so
Uh-huh.
yeah.
I
Yep.
think that's where it started, because
Mhm,
I don't know if you ever watched the movie that was based on all of that. It was, I can't remember the title of the movie,
mhm.
but Juliana Moore
I remember.
played Sarah Palin. And remember at the
Mhm,
very tail end of the movie, where the concession speech, and Senator McCain was trying to keep it above board, And then when she came out on the podium, Sarah Palin, just the enthusiasm of people. And then it was the comments that were made by Senator John McCain's campaign staff. And they were
Hmm.
like, "Oh my gosh, she has unleashed something that we're never going to be able to come back from." And I
Hmm.
mean, and it's sad. I mean, because she was governor of Alaska. I mean, she beat my former boss in the
That's right.
primary.
Hmm.
And and no one, she came out of nowhere. She was mayor of Wasilla, Alaska, which is, a little further south of Anchorage. And I mean, she beat Frank Murkowski. I mean, badly in the primary. And it's just like she never had a grasp of government. She did.
Right.
She really, really didn't. I mean, even as mayor of Wasilla, she didn't grasp anything. I mean, she ran that state in the ground and
Hmm.
then she left. She didn't even finish her term, Ron. She didn't even finish her term. And I mean, and
And
it
she's
just,
running again.
yeah.
And she
Well,
yes.
you know, S360 has an office in Anchorage,
Hmm.
and they have the stacked primary, they have the stacked elections.
Yes.
And so, you know, I mean, she's not going to win because between her and the other Republican, basic, because he comes from a prominent political family.
That's true.
But the
That's
thing is
right.
just like, you look at her, she was the beginning of this nonsense.
Yep.
And it continues to go on. And then with 2010, when the Tea Party people came in, and you just sit there, you're like, well, do I really want someone who doesn't even have a clear understanding of the budget or just how to work with people, or who have, good leadership qualities? Because these
That's right.
people don't.
No, no, you get rewarded for talking loud, saying outlandish things. And I look at, even some, I think the Marjorie Taylor Greene, for
Hmm.
example, and people say, well, Ron, you work around this stuff. How does she continue to get elected to office with all the things that she says and the antics that she pulls?
Right.
And I said, well, you need to ask her constituents that. I mean, it's someone that likes that kind of behavior and that supports it. And I said, the problem with that now is you see politics evolve. It used to be, you would go and get training, you would be really vetted, and you
Hmm.
would have to bring something to the table. But those days are gone. I mean, you can just, pretty much self-identify and say, hey, look, I'm running for office. And, again, the more outlandish and brash you can be, you seem to be rewarded. You look at Arizona, state that, I worked in for years, in terms of what's happening there in the governor's race. And again, and even more so in the Secretary of State
Right.
races, which we never really paid attention to Secretary of State. It was like, yes, in office,
Right.
but now we've come to know how critical it is, and you have election deniers all over these
Right.
ballots all over the country. So to me, I think we are in some trouble here. I've seen Liz Cheney support, and I think Ryan up in Ohio, and I think she was supporting Alyssa Slotkin, who I work with in Lansing.
Hmm.
And I had someone tell me, they said, well, that's incredible. I've never seen that before, but maybe these are the kinds of things that have to happen. I said, well, those are anomalies.
Yes.
That's an anomaly because typically it's not like she's receiving good grades for doing this
Exactly.
within her own department. So there's a price to be paid if you step out to do something like that. So yeah, and like you said, back to the races here.
Hmm.
Yes, I am glued to both of those. Me and my son voted last Saturday
Hmm.
in the early vote, and we just when we left, we were thinking it was beautiful because we voted in peace. There were no protesting,
Right.
no one with weapons watching us vote. People were cordial, and we all probably were voting for different people, but it didn't really matter. It was just we felt like it was a good environment, and we also said this is how it should be at every polling station, every place that you vote across the country. People should feel safe and free that they can go in and exercise the sacred right.